showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Welcome to episode 183 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name is Chris Hollifield. I am your host. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for giving it a listen, however you got here, however you're consuming it. I want to welcome those of you that might be first-time listeners, those of you that are checking out the podcast for the first time. Feel free to check out the website, iamsaltlake.com. It's where you can dig through the back catalog and check out all the other episodes as well. I want to welcome those of you that have been here since the very beginning, that are checking out each and every episode. This month, this August 2015, is the 3-year anniversary of I Am Salt Lake. So thank you for those of you that have been here since the beginning and your continual support. This episode, Nirvana Huntington, she joins me. We sit down, we chat, we have an awesome conversation. I get to know her a little bit better. I find out about her music, find out about the band she's in, find out about what it's like to work at the Green Pig. Great conversation. Had an awesome time chatting with her. I want to thank John Farmer from American Musicians Radio for letting me use his office to record this episode. And I want to thank him for his continual support of I Am Salt Lake. All right, that's going to do it. Again, the website, iamsaltlake.com. I'm going to quit chatting. Join me now as I chat with Nirvana Huntington and get to know her a little bit better. Not sure what episode number this is, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm sitting here, we're at American Musicians Radio Studio, chatting with Nirvana Huntington.
Great to be here. Nice
Thanks
to meet you.
Absolutely. First time meeting you, actually. Appreciate you reaching out and, we chatted about podcasts, and then I said, hey, let me sit down and get to know you a little bit better on an episode of I Am Salt Lake. So here we are. Now, did you grow up here in Utah, or where are you from? I
did. I grew up actually just across the street from Liberty Park.
Right across the street from Liberty Park. How was that as a child?
I really just wanted to go to the park all of the time.
Yeah.
And it was right there. So I just didn't understand why my parents didn't want to take me to the park every single waking moment. So that was a little confusing for me. But
yeah.
And then I was like, well, I can see it. Just let me go across the street and go to the park. And they were like, that is 7th East. You were
right on the 700 East, like literally on 700 East.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a busy road for a young kid.
Yeah.
Did you run out in the street a lot and scare your parents?
No. I was a pretty good kid. I was a goody two shoes. So that was like, we didn't hang out in the front lawn. We hung out in the backyard, and I didn't really go
Did you come from
a
big family? A lot of brothers and sisters?
No, actually, my parents were pretty young when I was born. My dad was 17. My mom was a little bit older, but yeah. And then 7 years later, they had my little sister, and it was just the two of us for a while. So
you're pretty close with your sister.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Have you always been close?
No. When we were younger, I sort of had this only child mentality because she didn't come along until I was 7 or so, and so I was just like, no, I don't understand this crying, whiny thing that's in my house all the time that's taking all this attention. So I kind of hated her for the first little while. And then after our parents got divorced, we just, bonded together because there was nothing really else to do.
About how old were you when you bonded with your sister?
Probably
like teens, your teenage years or preteens.
Yeah, it was. It was when I was a teenager, and then she was, still a little bit younger.
Oh, yeah, 7 years difference there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so probably wasn't until I was actually more until I was like 18 or so that I started to really have a connection and a bond with my sister.
And is your sister still here in Utah?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. 17, 18, yeah.
Awesome. So. Well, I want to get into all aspects of your life. Obviously, you've listened to the podcast. You're a little familiar. I'm here to get to know you. How would you, in a couple sentences, how would you describe Nirvana Huntington? How would you, or what are, I mean, you're a musician. How would you describe yourself to people listening?
I'm a musician. I'm a singer, songwriter, artist, poet, aspiring comedian.
And I want to get into that.
That's my newest project that I've been kind of working on. So.
And then you work at the Green Pig as well. I want to mention that too, just because, that's kind of one thing I try to portray on the podcast is that Utah, Salt Lake City, I mean, we have a side of us that, a lot of people have this preconceived notion on what Utah's all about. Green Pig is a perfect example that, hey, we like to have a drink. And I mean, it's a beautiful spot.
Oh, it's beautiful.
How long have you been at the Green Pig? Let's start right there.
I've only been there about 3-4 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks now.
So pretty new there.
Very recent, yeah.
Any crazy stories since you've been there? I mean, that's got to be a pretty wild bar. To the aspect, I mean, you have a lot of I don't know, people that might cause a little ruckus coming in, run their mouths.
I have in the 3 weeks I've been there, I've seen 2 people get kicked out. Just belligerent people. And it hasn't really been a big deal because all the bartenders there are just badass. So, they just sort of handle it with this firm grace that's just like, yep, get out of my bar. And I'm like, oh, I respect that about
and they have to do that.
Oh,
I mean, legally, I mean, they can't have any chaos. Now, are you a bartender there then, or are you? What do you do there?
So I'm a server / bartender. Basically, when you work upstairs on the patio, then you just run that bar and you're your own server. So
if I was to come in there, chances are that's where you would be, is upstairs on the
about half and half, that I'd be downstairs doing main wait or upstairs on the patio. So.
That is a beautiful place too, a beautiful patio. I love it, especially obviously in the summer.
Well, and that was kind of my favorite thing about the first day that I just trained up there. They had me train up on the patio, and I sat up and got a tan and looked at the beautiful Salt Lake skyline. And we're right next to the city and county building, which is one of my favorite buildings to look at. When I was a little kid, I used to call that the castle. It's like, yeah, mommy, we live right by the castle.
Have you had to deal with tourists at all? I hear of tourists that heckle bartenders. They don't understand our liquor laws.
I'm pretty good about talking to people who don't understand our liquor laws and kind of getting them to calm down about it and be like, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. It's a crazy Utah thing. It's not me. It's not this bar. Anywhere you go around here, they won't give you a shot and a cocktail because they can't.
And do they understand pretty quickly?
Yeah. I feel like some bartenders, not at the Green Pig, but I've seen at other places where they'll get a little more annoyed with tourists and just be like, oh yeah, no, I can't do that, and not really explain. So I've found that when you just explain to them, and just sort of be apologetic and just go, look, this isn't me. This isn't the bar. It's a Utah thing. Take it up with Utah law. I know it's crazy. I know.
Now, is Green Pig still doing Blues Night on Monday nights?
Yeah.
Oh my! I loved Blues Night. I should start going back to it.
I've never gone there to Blues Night, and they told me that, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta start going to Blues Night.
Yeah, was it 2 summers ago? I swear, I would every Monday night. I was there.
Nice.
That was that was where I was at, and I don't know why I really stopped. It gets tough on a Monday night before you go to work the next day. But anyway, speaking of music, let's chat music. You, before we were recording, you mentioned, how old were you when you first started playing music?
I was 4 years old.
4 years old. What did you play?
My first instrument was a ukulele. And
at 4 years old, you're playing a ukulele. Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I went to a pretty small school growing up, Salt Lake Institute for Learning. And it had 27 kids in it, all from kindergarten through 8th grade. So it was super, super tiny. And we all were required to take an instrument. even as early as kindergarten. And so I started with the ukulele. That was the first instrument I wrote my very first ever little song on when I was about 4 or 5.
So it was kind of forced upon you to a degree.
Right.
But did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Really?
And and from a very early age, I was always singing. I was always, making up songs and singing to myself. And then I started playing the ukulele, and then they offered recorder, and I was like, yes, I want to do that. And then they offered guitar, and I was like, yes, I want to do that. So I just started playing all the instruments, and just haven't been able to put music down since.
So what instruments do you play now?
I play the cello, the guitar, and I sing. I can play kind of a host of a lot of other instruments, but those are my main focuses.
Do you feel that learning one kind of helps you learn to play another instrument?
Oh yeah. Since I was in orchestra, when I was, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, since then I've been able to, like, if I see a violin, I can pick it up and play it, sort of. I don't get the finer details of it. Same with a stand-up bass or a viola. Once you know one of those kind of orchestra instruments, then you can pick up the other ones pretty easily. The one thing, and I did a little bit of recorder, but I haven't gone further with wind instruments. The one thing that I never really dabbled in is percussion. I feel like that's it takes a different brain to be a drummer, to be a percussionist, I feel like.
It does.
Yeah. They're a totally different kind of musician in my mind. So,
but they bring the band together.
Oh yeah,
in my opinion as well.
I absolutely adore my drummer, Maz Grimes. She is also the drummer in the Strange Hers, excuse me.
Okay.
And which is a new band, and she was the old drummer in Essex, if you know.
I'm not familiar, but I'll check them out. So your band now. What's the name of your band now?
Well, I have 2 projects that I'm in. One is Nirvana Huntington and the Gay Agenda.
I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. I really like that name too. We just sort of had a drunken tequila night and decided that, had this epiphany all together that would be our name. And then my other band's name is the Silver Slippers.
And which band has been around longer?
Really, they both about the same amount of time. The Silver Slippers is a project. At least I've been involved in for the same amount of time. But the Silver Slippers was a project that was started by my bandmate, Angela Moore. She has kind of had this project going for a couple of years and had people come in, and it just hasn't worked out. And so then when we started hanging out a couple of months ago, she was just like, oh, brilliant. Your style works really well with mine. And I played cello behind her music. And she was just like, yep, Silver Slippers, let's do it.
What does she play? That name sounds familiar.
She plays the guitar and she plays the violin. She plays in another band. Oh, and I am kicking myself right now because I can't remember.
From Utah County.
Yeah.
John Ross Boyce in their Trebles, no?
Yes, the Trebles.
Yeah, the Trebles.
Yep.
Yeah, because they were on one of the really early episodes of this podcast.
Oh, really?
They played at a bar, Totems.
Oh, that's awesome.
Have you been to Totems?
But
we recorded the podcast at Totems.
Nice.
And that's why that name rung a bell. I was like, yeah. I've chatted with her. Well, the whole band, not just her, not just a one-on-one. I like one-on-one, but she's great. She's great
wonderful.
From what I remember.
She's so brilliant. I absolutely am blessed and honored to be able to play with her.
So does she still live down in Utah County then?
No, she lives in Salt Lake now.
Or maybe she never lived in Utah County.
I think she may have.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that was
brother and
tough to record music with somebody in Utah County.
Yeah. but she's in Salt Lake, but she commutes to Provo to do shows with them and practice with them all the time. So
let's back up a little bit. What was the name of your first ever band? Do you remember that band?
Well, the name of my first ever band, I don't even remember because it was when I was 12.
So you're 12 years old. You're hanging out in the neighborhood and you're like, let's put a band together, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that. How did that?
It was actually, it was with my best friends, Julian Moon, Samantha Nelson, and Johnavie Caldwell Stone. And we all just went to school together and we wrote a couple of songs and created this little band. We had one show and it was opening for Julian Moon's mother, who is Monique Lanier. She was a local musician a while ago, a couple years ago.
So you had a show and everything. People in front. Were you scared?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're 12 years old,
terrified.
right?
I was terrified. And it was actually. Do you know Carolyn Turkanis?
I don't know.
She hosts a lot of local musicians in her backyard. She has like a venue back there set up.
Okay.
And that was where my very first show was.
Wow.
Was there, and I still see like her doing concerts in her backyard and posts for that all the time. So it's pretty cool.
And you were playing guitar, or what instrument were you playing then?
I was playing guitar and I was singing, and we had a little bit of keyboard in there, and yeah.
Any recordings still floating around?
Not of that. One song that we had was called "Ladies in Waiting." I remember that. That just like popped into my head as a memory. But yeah, then after that, my first real band where I had recordings and did a lot of shows was called Aditya.
Okay.
And I was this was when I was 13, 14 is when we started playing music together. She was quite a bit older. She was 24. And so she had the means and the money to be able to get us equipment and, get us booked places. And, I was a teenager, really young, and I had no idea about all this stuff. And so it was a really good education for me to have her kind of be my mentor and teach me a lot of this stuff. So I was really lucky.
So did she teach you a lot? Did you learn a lot from her?
I did, Rhiannon Trim.
Because a lot of people don't have that. They kind of have to learn. Even myself with this podcast, I just kind of had to get on the internet and figure out how to do it. But to kind of have that mentor, somebody to teach you, it's so helpful.
Oh yeah, and I've been really fortunate that I've had Rhiannon, who was in my first, or I guess second band with me, and then also that I have Pnina Siddharth. She is a local musician. She's out of LA. But when I met her, she was traveling around with her bandmate / girlfriend in their van with their dog and their cat and just traveling around playing music and getting from town to town. And I have learned a ton from her, and I used to go to their shows and I used to just bring my cello and they would have me come and play cello behind them. And, cause I'm just really good at on the fly kind of stuff. I love to jam. And so at one point when I was 16, they came through for a show, and this is where my life could have taken a dramatic turn. They were just like, I was having issues with family life and school and stuff, and they just go, Nirvana, just get your cello and get in the van. We're gonna go. We're just going to go. We're going to steal you, and you don't have to graduate high school. It's fine. We're just going to take you, and you're going to travel around with us from city to city. We're just going to make it work.
And did you do that?
No, I didn't. And it was mostly because
of your age?
Not even that. I was living on my own at this point.
At 16 years old, you were living on your own?
Yeah. I was working full time and going to high school and paying rent, living on my own.
Wow, you had the ambition still to go to high school even.
Oh, yeah,
That's
I graduated.
Wow.
I graduated with 3.7.
Well, that's awesome. And while you're playing music.
While I'm playing music and working a full-time job, and yeah.
What kind of music were you listening to? Like, what were some of the bands that were inspiring you back then?
And then and now, always.
Has your music style changed much? Not really, or?
Oh, it's definitely grown and evolved, but it's and I've dabbled in a couple of different areas. At one point, I was in an alternative metal band, which was pretty fun, and we turned one of my songs into a metal song, which was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's my favorite version of that song, actually.
What song was it?
It was one of my songs, "Things Fall Apart."
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your current bands, Silver Slippers and Nirvana Huntington and the Gay Agenda, right? Okay.
Yeah.
How long have those bands been around, approximately?
Just now, a couple of months, more like 7-8 months for both of them.
Pretty new.
Yeah. I've always been doing music in some form or another, but I recently got divorced about 7-8 months ago. And so I took a break. I took a really long hiatus from playing shows and really pursuing music as much as I want to.
So did you turn to music kind of for your outlet to go through all that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's totally been my outlet. And if I can help it, I have 3 band practices a week. So yeah, so I keep myself busy.
So why 2 bands?
Well, there are different styles of music in both of the bands. The Nirvana Huntington and the Gay Agenda has 5 members. It's a lot more of a big band sort of feel. I've got my drummer and lead guitarist and bass player. Angela plays in that band as well. She plays the violin for me. And then I play the guitar and sing.
Who's in the band? Go down the list. Do you want to say their names? Or
yeah.
Okay.
We've got Maz Grimes that I talked about before. She's my percussionist. We have Danny Mace is my lead guitarist. He's amazing. As well as Michael Iros on the bass. He's just incredible as well. They both have songs that they've written for that band that we're working on and incorporating. So they have. So that band is sort of like an amalgamation of a couple of different styles because we all have something different and new to bring to it. It's pretty like folk rock style, but we have some comedy songs. We have a rap song. We're sort of all over the place with.
Well, you're having fun though.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the important.
That's really what it is we're all performers. We're all we all just like to have a lot of fun on stage and we like to make our shows a lot of fun. I wear costume, a lot of the guys in the band wear costumes when they can. And yeah.
So it's not like a set costume, whatever you decide to wake up in and wear. What's been your craziest costume?
I mostly kind of go for this gypsy pirate sort of look when I'm doing Gay Agenda stuff. And then with Silver Slippers, we wear silver slippers, obviously.
So then what kind of music costume is Silver Slippers in?
Silver Slippers is a lot more acoustic, sort of experimental, slower stuff, but a lot more like haunting, deeper sort of style. Yeah, and she writes a lot of that stuff for the Silver Slippers, but we've also done one of my songs and then some of my poetry on stage, and yeah.
Do you guys play out much, or any shows coming up that you want to mention? Or
well, we have a show this Saturday, but that'll be
after.
But that show will be a lot of fun because we're actually going up to Rockport, the marina up there to do an outdoor show. Recently, both bands have been kind of playing out quite a bit, even though I've sort of been trying to keep our shows at a minimum so that we can work on solidifying our stuff and getting some recordings and that sort of thing. But then opportunities sort of pop up and I have a really hard time saying no. Yeah. So I'm like, yes, we will play that show.
And obviously people can connect on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Probably to find out. And I'll put those links on the show notes for this episode at imsaltlake.com. So people can connect with both bands. I'm assuming have a Facebook page.
Yes, we both do. And we're working on solidifying our stuff for kind of the rest of this summer. But then once fall hits, I want to get back into booking some more shows and doing that.
What instrument would you like to learn if you could learn to play any instrument?
If I really would love to have the opportunity to play around with a theremin.
Not familiar with that.
It's
you can't just pick a regular instrument like a piano.
I actually would like to learn how to play the piano. I haven't. I used to play around on my grandmother's piano, but I never took any lessons or dabbled with that very much. But no, theremin is a crazy instrument. It makes like these crazy space noises, and I would love to be able to, but they're very expensive. It's like an electronic instrument. And you control it by like moving your hand in this area. It's really weird. It's bizarre. I can't even describe how it works. It's too advanced for me.
Let's say you got a phone call from a band, a known band. They called you up. They said, Nirvana, we want you to come on tour with us. What would be your dream band?
Oh, if Ani DeFranco called me up and said, I would do anything for that woman.
You would just, pick it all.
I would die. I would die.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my ultimate goals in life is to be on her record label, Righteous Babe Records. So.
Wow.
That's my goal. That's what I'm going to do.
Have you played outside of Utah yet at all?
I have, yeah. My old band Aditya, we went on tour through Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and just back around.
Oh, so you got to experience a little bit of the tour life. And
yeah.
What was that like?
It was a lot of fun. It was set up for us by my mentor, Pnina Siddharth. And she was having her CD release party out in Portland, and she just said, "Come, I'll set up, a tour for you through Idaho. You can come meet up with us in Portland, and then you can go over to Washington, and then just go back down." And so that was amazing. So we both got to go to their CD release party, which was just a giant party, so much fun, and then experience what it was like to go into these different towns and not know anybody and not really, because you don't have a following in these cities, and so it's just sort of up to the universe to see who shows up to this random public place that you're playing in and see if they like you.
When you got back home, did it make you want to get back out on the road? Did you miss it, or were you just like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that's over?
It made me want to do it again. Definitely. I was 16 when I went on tour. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you were young.
I was. A lot of my music experience has come from when I was a lot younger, and then, like I said, when I was married, I sort of took a break from that. Unfortunately.
Why? Just because you wanted to experience a married life, or
it was just it was a lot of a crisis of self-confidence, partially, and just being in a long-term committed relationship that takes up a lot of your time and your energy. And I was a housewife for a while and just sort of took care of everything for him. And I didn't honestly have time for a whole lot else. So
I gotcha. Let's chat about comedy for a little bit here, because we were chatting before we were recording. You're kind of new to the comedy scene.
Oh yeah.
This is kind of a new. Talk about that. The first time doing an open mic, I'm assuming you just got up, you decided to do it. Why?
Yeah. So initially, I guess my very, very first time doing it was I used to run an open mic at the Paper Moon when I worked there. And
what did you do at the Paper Moon?
I bartended.
Okay.
I started out cocktailing and then worked as a bartender for a while. So
you were doing an open mic at Paper Moon.
yeah, I was running a weekly open mic, and some of the comedy guys started coming down. It was Nicholas Don Smith and Kean Clark.
They just randomly showed up, or they were showing up for the open mics?
They were showing up for the open mics.
They were just coming to hang out at the Paper Moon. I was like, did I miss something there?
Yeah. No, it was because I was running this open mic, and so just a couple of the comedy guys started coming every week, and I really loved it. That's how I met a lot of the people. That's how I met Natasha Maurer. Just a lot of people that came through there. And so I kind of like, because I was hosting, so in between when I would like hear the comedy bits and then I would, get up to introduce somebody else, I would be like, oh, well, I guess I'll try to tell this funny story for a second, and tried it out that way. And I've always been trying to find ways to get better at performing, getting better at talking on a microphone, just because I feel like as a musician, a lot of times the people will be really good musicians, really proficient in what they do, but then they get on stage and they're awkward and they don't know how to connect with an audience. And I recognized when I was younger that I would get caught up on my words in between songs. I didn't know how to talk to people. It's a very vulnerable thing to express your music, which is to me very personal. I have really personal lyrics and it's all very emotional. To be able to like express that to somebody, and some people get it, some people connect and some people don't, but you have to be able to, in between songs, just be able to connect with everybody, So do you feel that doing some stand-up has helped your music then? Absolutely.
Do you feel like it has?
Mm-hmm. That's why I continued doing it, honestly, was so then after the Paper Moon closed.
So back up a little bit. How long ago were the open mics at Paper Moon? Because that was quite a while ago.
It was a little while ago.
A year? No?
It was more than a year ago.
2 years?
2-3 years ago,
Just trying to kind of develop some sort of time reference here for listeners.
Yeah, about 2-3 years ago is when I was doing that.
Okay.
I ran the open mic there for about a year.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So Paper Moon closed, and the world is devastated. Salt Lake City,
No more lesbian bars in Utah. That was the only one. It was the only one.
That's the only lesbian bar.
We have gay bars and we have bisexual bars, but we don't have a lesbian bar.
Why
I don't know.
Well, let's open one up.
Right? Yeah. And that's why I was like, apparently it's not just a Utah thing. Like, I read an article online that was like, lesbian bars all over the country are closing. I'm like, why? What? Why are they all disappearing?
Girls like to go out and drink?
I know. Girls who like girls like to go out and drink.
Girls who like girls like to go out and have a drink.
Well, and that's what I loved also about the open mic is that I had some of the comedy guys especially would come in and be a little bit tentative at first and sort of be like, well, this is a lesbian bar. I had a lot of them be like, I didn't know if they were
beat up or something.
Like, exactly. Like they were going to get shunned or, turned away. What is this straight man with a penis? Like, go away. But I used to call my open mic a very open mic night. The very open mic night. So, I just tried to make it as welcoming and inviting as possible. And it made me tear up the other day. I was hanging out with Kean Clark and we were talking about we were reminiscing over the old Paper Moon days. And he was like, it was like your own little lesbian clubhouse, except for everyone was invited. Like, you just had your own little, like, clubhouse and, you just invited everybody in. It was really cute and great. I'm like, oh, thanks, Kian. But yeah, that's the atmosphere that I tried to portray.
So with Paper Moon closing, have you still got up and got on behind the microphone?
So
how do you juggle all this? I mean, you're a musician and then you work and you got to pay bills.
Oh yeah.
And then comedy.
Yeah. I started going to, so what happened is I used to have a full-time office job where I would listen to a bunch of podcasts. And so
I love people like you that have office jobs that listen to podcasts.
Right?
I thrive off it.
Right?
I need more people like you.
40 hours a week. That's a lot of podcast time to fill with stuff. So particularly, I always followed Geek Show podcast and Hello Sweetie podcast. And so Hello Sweetie hosted an event with Nicholas Don Smith because he runs an open mic out at Sandy Station. So I went to that for the very first time because I was like, oh, I know Nicholas, from Paper Moon, and this sounds like a really cool event. So I went, and I wasn't expecting to get up. And then halfway through, I just sort of was like, I think I want to try this. And so I talked to Nicholas, and he's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll totally put you on there. And at first I was like, well, I'll try to say a couple of jokes, and then I'll just do this. Basically, it's like a comedy rap song that I do. And so I was like, I'll try to be funny, and then I'll do my music, which is what I am good at, right? And then I just started telling jokes and got a few laughs.
Just off a whim, not been written down. Just off your
just thought about it and was like, oh, that might be funny. And I got a couple of laughs, and nothing tremendous, but it was enough to make me be like, oh, maybe I would try this again. And just from the comedians that I knew in the audience, they came up to me afterwards and they were like, not necessarily that they said that I was funny, but they said you should keep working on that. And to me, that was like
you have potential.
Yeah, that was like a good, you're not there yet. Obviously, you just started, but you should keep at this. And I'm like, oh, hey, okay, I'll do that. So since then, I when I can make it, I go to Sandy Station every Saturday and try out my jokes there.
Do they have comedy there pretty much every Saturday? Is that
that's
for people listening that are looking for a comedy outlet or something like that, or to go watch comedy?
Yeah. Nicholas Don Smith runs the Sandy Station open mic at 5:00 every Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
I'll have to check that out sometime. I just actually checked out Sandy Station for the first time for Christopher James' birthday party, his live podcast. I've never been to Sandy Station prior.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little spot. It's got a lot of room.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of different stuff there. But
so I mean, would you recommend anybody, say even myself? Hey, I'm not the youngest guy on the block, but say I was interested in getting up and doing some stand-up comedy. I mean, do you think you're ever too old?
No.
Because sometimes I feel that way. Like, gosh, I didn't get into this comedy thing when I was in my 20s or 18 years old. I should have gone up there and done some stand-up.
Absolutely not. You should definitely, if you've ever had the inclination that you want to do it, you should absolutely do it. And I would recommend Sandy Station.
Okay. Why is
for
that?
doing that.
Why? Versus some of the other Wise Guys or something like that.
Well, okay, so I've never actually performed at Wise Guys.
Really?
It's a little bit of a
seems intimidating.
Yeah. It's a little bit intimidating, and
because that's where the big guys are. That's
exactly. It's a high caliber of and I'm just barely getting into this and super working out my kinks just starting to actually write jokes instead of just go up there and tell funny stories. And so I feel like at some point I will go and try Wise Guys. But for right now, just the atmosphere over at Sandy Station, and it's mostly comedians. You're mostly just performing in front of other comedians. But they're all so super nice. They're all so inviting, so welcoming.
Well, that's how I feel all the comics are in general in Salt Lake City, period.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if comedy scenes are like that in every city, though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Everybody's very supportive of each other.
Yeah, super supportive. I'm really grateful to just know these guys.
So do you watch a lot of stand up too? I don't know, on Comedy Central or something? Like, do you watch that to try to get ideas on how to do it? Or, I mean, you're probably listening to a lot of music and stand up.
Yeah.
So who are some comedians that you like?
I really love Aziz Ansari.
Okay.
Especially for his feminist views. I wholeheartedly appreciate it. And Amy Schumer as well. I feel like she's my spirit animal. I love her. Yeah. So I used to listen to a lot of stand-up growing up, actually, Richard Pryor and that sort of thing.
The founders of comedy, in my opinion. I know that wasn't too long ago for some people, but kind of backing up a little bit, kind of mentioning, how do you do it? How do you keep yourself? I mean, you got multiple bands and work. What motivates you? What drives you to do this?
It's mostly a feeling of just that if I don't do it now, eventually I'm going to run out of chances to do it. And especially after I got divorced, it was sort of like a wake up call of that I had been putting myself and a lot of the things that I like to do on the back burner. And so for the past couple of months, I've had this sort of manic energy about me, just being like, I feel like you
want to keep doing it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So
is there anything else you want to try out besides comedy and music? Is there something else on the back burner that you're just like, gosh, I want to write a book or I want to
I'm like
be in a play or something like that?
Actually, all of those things.
Yeah.
I also write poetry and not so much short stories, more like memoirs, but I don't really know how to write fiction. It's all pretty truthful nonfiction stuff, but I would love to be able to write a book. Eventually, I feel like whether it gets published or not, I'll end up writing a book about my mom.
Okay.
I used to do acting when I was younger. I used to, and since I love singing, I've always wanted to be in a musical. I was in Annie when I was younger, but I was a background person, and so I didn't really get a chance. I didn't feel like that was fulfilled in my life. So I would love to be in a musical at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you free up some time, when you have some, well, let's say you did find out, you woke up tomorrow, you got a call from your doctor and said, Nirvana, you got a month left to live. How are you going to live that last month?
Oh, I would play so much music. I would probably do so much hiking around Utah. Is so beautiful, particularly Mill Creek Canyon. Yeah, and I think I would just hang out with my friends. I would play all of the music and just try to write as much as I could.
Now, I ask this, people that come on the show, people that are, come on the podcast. What would you recommend? Like, say somebody was visiting Salt Lake, Nirvana Huntington. Where would she say, you got to check this out? You got to, whether it's an event or, like you said, open mic, a building, an area of town, something. What would you tell them? You got to check this out.
I would say, and this isn't just because I'm biased because I work there, but I would say you should check out the Green Pig.
Absolutely.
I really have
the patio upstairs alone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There really isn't bars like that downtown even.
Yeah, it's pretty unique in that way, and I really have just fully enjoyed being able to work there just in the short amount of time that I have, because I think it's such a cool place and all of the people that are there are so amazing. I'm really fortunate to have gotten that job. But besides that, I would say even just in that same neighborhood, just going to the library, especially.
Beautiful building.
Beautiful, going up on the rooftop again, and there's the garden up there, and I would say definitely that. And then just bar hopping around that block radius around the Green Pig, because there's so many cool places. I've heard of underneath the bodega.
Oh, yeah, the little speakeasy type situation. You got to kind of give them the little password to get in. It's
exactly.
cool. It's cool down there.
You gotta
it's cool.
I've never been down there, and I just found out. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Set a reservation. Give them the nudge, the wink, wink. Let's do it.
No, it's not that difficult to get down there. But even the upstairs part of Bodega is pretty chill. You get a beer or two, and they got the cheese balls and
it's pretty cool. And then you've got like Whiskey Street right there, and Cheers to You and Maxwell's, and so
there you go. What about eating spots? Any local restaurants, cafes, taco carts?
I'm a vegetarian, and so I'm always looking for good vegetarian and vegan spots.
Well, there's a ton of them in Salt Lake.
There is. I particularly love Frisch. Shout out to Frisch.
Love Rachel and Lee. Shout out. Love those guys.
Eatery. So I do. I love the full Whitaker nachos, especially. Those are good. And then also for vegetarian vegan places, there's Sage's Cafe. They do a vegan pizza night every Tuesday where it's all you can eat vegan pizza for $12, and they just come around with the multiple different kinds every couple of minutes, and you just take a little slice, and it's so good. I try to go there every Tuesday that I'm free. So
what let's say that you could be an extra in any TV show. What TV show would you be an extra in?
Does it have to be currently running or like
TV show? This is just a fun hypothetical question.
Oh, geez. I absolutely love Game of Thrones. I am a Game of Thrones nerd. I couldn't get into that show.
Really? I've tried many times.
Oh, really?
I know I'm going to get hate emails for saying this. I tried, you guys. I just looked at it like, but anyways, you'd be an extra on Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah. I'm going to Salt Lake Comic-Con this year, and I decided that this will be the first year that I cosplay.
So is
Never done
is
that.
It your first Comic-Con then too, or no? You've
I've been before, but I went year before last. I didn't get to go last year. I was working, but I've never cosplayed before, and so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just go big or go home. I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it all 3 days, and I'm gonna go as Daenerys Targaryen, or Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen. Now you're going to get hate emails from me screwing it up. But I absolutely love her. She's the one that's like bleach blonde. I'm going to dye my hair for it. I'm going to just do the whole thing.
How can people get a hold of you? Like, how is it? Do you have a website or just Facebook, Twitter? Are you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter. It's Joyful7Girl.
On Twitter?
On Twitter.
Okay.
And on Facebook, you can look me up by Nirvana Huntington. I have a Nirvana Huntington music page. I have a Nirvana Huntington in the Gay Agenda. And I also have Silver Slippers. So,
and then Facebook as well.
Yeah, that's
Facebook. And do you care if I add your personal Facebook to the links, or would you rather not?
No, you should definitely do that.
Okay, that way people, because that's one thing with the podcast. You know, I want to kind of. We're a small city, but we're big, you know,
we are.
And it's all about just networking, staying connected, becoming friends with everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's anything in future that you want to, where do you see yourself in the next year, or anything you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Well, particularly just a goal that I have for next year is I had a couple of friends play on the Pride stage this year. We had Cecily Joy and Mary Tebbs, and I got to jam with them a little while ago, and it was just amazing. And I was like, I really want to be on the Pride stage next year. I want to be playing at Pride for Utah Pride next year.
So hopefully next year, 2016, you'll see Nirvana Huntington on the Pride parade.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is my goal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any piece of words of wisdom or pieces of advice you want to leave with the listeners? Anything you want to leave? Profound words from Nirvana.
I adopted this mentality a couple of months ago of or a mantra, if you will, 0 fucks to give. So my friends who have taken that and run with it with me, their lives have gotten better. My life has gotten better. Just saying, screw being afraid of failing of doing things and not being good at it. Just if you want to do it, go do it. Just go do it.
All right, many thanks goes out to Nirvana for coming on this episode of the podcast. I really hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you guys reach out to her and let her know what you thought of it. I'm going to put all the links, iamsaltlake.com/183. That way you can connect with her on Twitter or Facebook. Any social media outlet that she's on is going to be right there on the website. Again, the website for the entire podcast is iamsaltlake.com. It's where you can dig through the back catalog, check out all the other episodes. You can find out more about myself, connect with me. There's also a donate button where you can donate to the podcast. I have 3 different monthly subscriptions, so you can be a monthly donor, help keep the podcast moving forward. You know, doing a podcast costs a lot of money. I've been kind of keeping it going. It's been a passion project of mine, but I'm reaching out to you guys to kick on over a few dollars and help keep the show moving forward. I got some big projects coming out, and your help is very, very much appreciated. And I want to thank those of you that have donated in the past on this project of mine. I got a brand new show each and every week, so you're going to want to make sure to subscribe in iTunes or Stitcher Radio. That's going to do it. Like I said, my name is Chris Hollifield. You guys have a great week, and we'll catch you guys again in a week.